I have a new girlfriend and I'm moving in with her. I'm getting a divorce, and you need to move back to your parents' place. I don't understand what you're saying. I don't need you anymore. If you want to be a breadwinner or a housekeeper, you can stay with my parents, Julian. My in-laws and husband laugh at me, and they're terrible people. But this is better for me, so you all need to leave. My name is Julianne. I'm 35 years old and work in an office. I've spent my whole life working hard. After college, I started at a big company and worked there for 13 years. I earned promotions, and now, at a young age, I'm a department manager. I have a great boss and a talented team. My work life is great, but my personal life is not. When I was a student, I had a boyfriend, but none after I started working. Concerned about me, a friend threw a dinner party, and that's where I met Jake. He was kind, had a great smile, and was easy to talk to. Since we were the same age, we had a lot in common and enjoyed each other's company. We became friends, exchanged contact information, and started having meals together. Eventually, Jake told me he had feelings for me, and we began dating. We got along really well. Jake proposed, and we got married. I was thrilled to marry the man I loved. Shortly after, I visited his parents. They were very welcoming and kind. Julian, it's wonderful to meet you. We can't believe someone as beautiful as you is marrying Jake, they said, and they were in tears. We're so proud of our son for finding such a good partner. Mom and Dad, stop it. You're making Julianne nervous. Oh, if you really feel that way, you can say it. Yes, it's a compliment, so it's fine. Jake's parents were very friendly and easy to talk to, just like him. Julianne works for a big company, right? Oh, that's great. It's impressive to see a woman who works hard. Are you going to quit your job after you get married? No, I plan to keep working. Well, you have a good job at a good company. That's great. I felt relieved. I had heard from friends that their mothers-in-law often told them to quit their jobs because it was a wife's role to support her husband. So I was happy to see that my future mother-in-law was supportive. After meeting my parents, we got married. I was thrilled about starting our new life together. My husband moved into the house I was living in, and we began our life as newlyweds. I was very happy to be with him all the time and to come home to him after work. 8 months into our marriage, my husband told me he wanted to talk about something. If you don't mind, I'd like us to live with my parents. What do you mean, live together? Yes, they're getting older, and I'm worried about them. I understand how you feel. My parents are about the same age, but my brother and his wife live with them, so I don't have to worry. However, since you're an only child, it makes sense that you're concerned about your parents. Does this mean we'll be living with your parents? Yes, that's right. But do they have a room for us? They use every room for various things. Well, if you're open to it, I think it would be a good idea to renovate my parents' house and turn it into a 2-family home. 2 families? Yes. If we do that, it will be much cheaper than buying a new house. We can have a nice, spacious place while still keeping our privacy. I think that's a great idea. My in-laws are kind, and having separate spaces will make things less stressful. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much. My parents will be thrilled. I was happy to see how pleased my husband was. When my in-laws visited us later, they were very thankful. With such a kind and cheerful family, I felt like managing 2 households wouldn't be so bad. Soon after, my husband and I talked about remodeling his parents' house. The cost would be about $200,000. During our discussion, my husband made a surprising request. Actually, I have a favor to ask. Could you cover the cost of the remodeling? What do you mean, the full amount? Yes. Why? My husband looked very uncomfortable. Actually, we're in debt. I was shocked. Neither he nor his parents had mentioned this when we were dating or when we got married. How much debt do they have? About $250,000. What? I thought it would be a few tens of thousands, but I'm stunned by the amount. I ended up shouting in surprise. It wasn't just a small issue, it was growing and seemed unmanageable. Even if I wanted to help pay it off, it felt impossible. My parents are living on a pension, and the debt was becoming overwhelming. I see, I said, trying to hide my shock and frustration. I had no idea my in-laws were in such financial trouble. Julian, I need a favor. Could you help me pay off my parents' debt? They can't manage it anymore, and my salary isn't enough either. Then isn't it going to be hard to renovate the house and live together as 2 families? No, it's important, so let's go ahead with the plan. You've asked me to cover the cost of the remodeling and your parents' debt. That's $250,000. I know it's a lot to ask, but I want to build a life with you and take care of my parents. I love both them and you. I'm sorry if this seems greedy, but if you really love me, please help. I promise to pay you back little by little. I was very upset. My husband and his parents had no one else to turn to but me. I knew he loved me, but I felt misled. It felt like love had blinded me. Okay, I'll pay for it. I agreed. My husband said, "Thank you so much," and shook my hand. He told his parents, who later came to our house to apologize. My mother-in-law even cried tears of joy. I have to do my best from now on, I thought. I was determined to take on my in-laws' debt. Although I had some savings, I was worried about paying it all at once, so I decided to pay $60,000 upfront and the rest in installments. We all got together to discuss the repayment plan. I explained my plan for installments, and they agreed to it. "Why don't you transfer the money directly to the debt repayment account? We're not very good at handling money, and I'm worried about transferring a large amount," my husband said. My in-laws agreed. It would be complicated for me to transfer the money to their account, and then for them to move it to the repayment account. Since it was a large amount, I didn't want it to get lost, so I agreed to transfer it directly. Once we settled the details, my in-laws looked very relieved. Now we don't have to worry about the monthly debt collection. It's been really scary. Dad and Mom, you should thank Julian properly. Words can't express how grateful we are. Thank you so much. We're so glad Julian is our daughter-in-law. No, I said. I was happy that my in-laws were relieved, but I felt a bit uncomfortable. I worried that they might see me just as a source of money. Despite this, I wanted to support my husband's family. With that in mind, I started making the payments, and we remodeled the house to create a two-family home. We moved into our new spacious home. My in-laws were very happy, and my husband was thrilled with the new place. I enjoyed cooking in the new kitchen and was glad we did the remodeling. It was more convenient and closer to work, which shortened my commute and gave me more free time that I could use for studying. I worked hard every day to pay off the debt. However, something troubled me. My husband did not help with the debt payments at all. He had promised to help, but he never contributed from his paycheck. When I asked him about it, he said his salary wasn't enough. I asked to see his pay stubs to understand his earnings, but he refused, so I had no idea how much he was making. I worked hard for about a year to pay off the debt. One day, my in-laws asked how much was left to repay. "It's been a year, so you haven't paid off much yet, right?" "Well, we've paid back about $60,000 this year, so there's roughly $180,000 remaining," I replied. My in-laws were shocked. "What? You've paid back that much, Julian? That's incredible. At this rate, you'll finish paying off the loan in about 5 years if you keep working hard. I'm hopeful we can pay it off," they said. "Thank you so much," my in-laws said, crying with happiness. Seeing them so joyful made all the hard work feel worthwhile. A few days later, I ran into an unexpected situation. I had to work late, so I told my husband I'd be home late. However, the work went smoothly, and we finished on time. I rushed home, planning to make dinner for him. When I opened the front door, I noticed my in-laws' shoes. "Oh, my in-laws are here," I thought. I walked toward the living room and heard them talking with my husband. "You made a smart choice marrying that woman, didn't you, Jake? You did well. I can't believe you got a woman with that much money." "When I found out she works for a big company, I made sure to win her over," said my mother-in-law. "You should be more grateful," my husband replied. "Oh my, you're part of the reason we're in debt," my in-laws said. "What? But I owe the least," my husband responded. "What are you talking about? How much did you spend on horse racing? Your gambling is terrible." "I win a jackpot once in a while, so sometimes we were actually ahead." "How can you be ahead when you owed $250,000? But at this rate, we'll be able to get out of debt and be back on track." "That's great, and she even remodeled our house. I got a really good wife." "Well, I'm going to dump her after she pays off the debt," my husband said. My husband and in-laws laughed. I was so shocked that I couldn't move from the front door for a while. After I calmed down a bit, I made a loud noise locking the door and said, "I'm home." When I went into the living room, my in-laws and husband greeted me with smiles. "Oh, Julian, welcome home. Great job, great job. We're heading back to our room now. Let's have dinner together soon." Their gentle smiles felt frightening after hearing their earlier conversation. I was stunned to see my husband pretending to be a good husband with a smile. I questioned why I had been working so hard to pay off their debt. "Didn't you say you had to work late today?" "Yes, but I finished early, so I came home to cook dinner." I tried my best to stay calm until dinner so my husband wouldn't suspect anything. Later, when my husband was taking a bath, I stayed in my room and cried alone. I cried so hard that it made me want to get back at my husband and in-laws. From that point on, I acted quickly. I began preparing for a divorce and made plans for what to do afterward. About 5 months passed. I pretended to be happy and told my husband that I had paid off my in-laws' debt. My husband's eyes widened. "What? You paid off the debt? That $250,000? It was supposed to take about 5 years. Actually, I had quite a bit saved up. I was hesitant to use it all at once, so I started paying a little from my salary and savings. But since we were already under $200,000, I thought it would be better to clear the debt all at once. I see, he said. Do you mind if I show you? I asked, presenting the bank book. Oh, it's true, he said. $180,000 had been paid all at once. My husband tried to hide his excitement, but I could see he was eager to leave. Wow, Julian, thank you. My parents are going to be thrilled, he said. He put his hands on his face, pretending to cry, but I knew it was just an act. Shortly after, my in-laws came over to thank me. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I met Julian. She's truly a blessing. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have been happy to hear their thanks. But knowing what they were really like, I only acted nice because I was preparing for my plan. A few days later, my husband asked to speak with me. He looked very serious. What's going on? I asked. I'm sorry, Julianne, but you need to leave me. What do you mean? I acted surprised on purpose. I have a new girlfriend. I'm moving in with her, so I'm divorcing you. You'll have to go live with my parents. I was shocked by Jake's sudden announcement. I had anticipated he would leave me once the debt was paid, as I'd overheard their conversation, but I didn't expect him to be so upfront about his infidelity. What do you mean, send me to his parents' place? I asked. I don't really understand what you mean, I said. My husband's mood turned sour. You're not getting it at all. I don't need you anymore, but if you want to stay as a housekeeper or breadwinner, I can keep you here. Just then, the front door opened, and my in-laws came in. Jake, did you finally tell her? Yeah, I told her. I wish I could have seen her reaction. If you agree to do the chores for us, you can come live at our house. Of course, we'll charge you rent. My in-laws and husband laughed at me. I felt like they were the worst people ever. All of you need to leave, I said. My in-laws rolled their eyes. What are you talking about? Have you forgotten? I can easily pay for the renovation myself. You changed the name of the house to mine, so I have the rights to decide who lives here and who doesn't. My in-laws' faces turned pale when they remembered the house title. I was utterly dumbfounded. I'm sorry, but you can't live here anymore. If we get divorced, we'll be strangers, I said. My in-laws began to understand the seriousness of the situation, but my husband, not wanting to be outdone, shot back, but you paid off our debt in full. You're the one who lost money. If we didn't have the debt, we could have afforded a new place to live. That's true. Thank you for letting us live in a nice house while you paid off our debts, my in-laws and husband said. I'm sorry, but I didn't pay off the remaining $180,000 debt, I said. What? No, but there was money missing from your bank book. That was just a separate account I set up to move money around. The debt is still $180,000. I haven't had the collections come yet because I've been paying large amounts consistently. But now the bills will come, so you're responsible for paying the rest. My husband and in-laws were stunned. I then warned them, Jake, you confessed to having an affair, so you'll need to pay. I'll also charge your partner for the affair. Oh no, she's with me because she thought I had money in the house. If I have to pay alimony, she'll leave me. I don't care about that. No, please don't leave us, my husband begged. My husband was scared of losing his lover and my in-laws were scared of losing me. They were truly selfish. I have nothing to do with you people anymore, no matter what you say. I've also put this house on the market. You'll be responsible for paying the $120,000 debt I covered on your behalf through my lawyer. My in-laws were stunned, realizing they were losing everything. I demanded a divorce and alimony from my husband through my lawyer, as well as alimony from his affair partner, and $120,000 from my in-laws for what I had paid. The renovated house sold for about $400,000. It was in a great location, and a family looking for a duplex bought it at a good price. I had to cover $320,000, which included the $120,000 debt and $200,000 for the renovation. However, I ended up with $80,000 profit from the sale. Additionally, I received alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner, which greatly improved my financial situation. I also got $120,000 from my ex-in-laws. Overall, I came out ahead. I felt this was fair because the damage I endured was significant enough to make me distrustful of others. I initially had savings from learning how to invest with the goal of paying off my in-laws' debts quickly. With substantial savings to start, I invested tens of thousands of dollars, and my assets grew significantly in about a year. Additionally, I received a raise at work, increasing my earnings. Thanks to my savings and investments, I was able to take these drastic steps. My former in-laws ended up back in debt and lost their house, but they brought it upon themselves by deceiving me. People who cheat others should face the consequences. This experience taught me to be more cautious and develop better judgment about people. Going forward, I'm focusing on saving and growing my assets to ensure a comfortable retirement. I want to create happy memories with people I can truly trust. To start, I improved my financial knowledge by taking courses and reading books on investing and personal finance. This helped me make informed decisions about where to invest my money. Over time, I diversified my investments across various asset classes like stocks, bonds, and real estate, which helped my wealth grow steadily and securely. Additionally, I seized opportunities to advance my career. I pursued extra training and certifications in my field, which led to a significant promotion and raise. This increased income allowed me to save and invest more aggressively. I remained focused on my long-term goals, aiming to retire comfortably and enjoy my later years without financial stress. I also wanted to be able to help loved ones if needed. This vision kept me motivated and disciplined. Eventually, my efforts paid off. I bought a beautiful home in a great neighborhood, traveled to places I had always dreamed of, and built strong relationships with friends and family who genuinely cared about me. These connections brought me joy and fulfillment. Looking back, I realized that the challenges I faced with my ex-husband and in-laws taught me valuable lessons. They pushed me to become more self-reliant and financially savvy and helped me understand the importance of surrounding myself with trustworthy and supportive people. In conclusion, I turned a difficult situation into an opportunity for growth. By focusing on my financial health and personal development, I created a better future for myself. I hope my story inspires others to take control of their lives and make positive changes. What did you think of the story? Please subscribe to our channel and see you in the next video.
Elderly folks who didn't finish high school speak flawless French. During my son's wedding, Aubrey, my son's wife, sneaked in a comment while using the fancy French. She smirked, making a private joke that felt awkward for a bride. It turned out, the speech we were asked to give for our son was a setup by Aubrey to embarrass us. Aubrey always looked down on us for not finishing high school and never missed a chance to insult us. As an Ivy League graduate, she often said things like, "For someone who dropped out of high school," when she suggested we participate in the wedding. Maybe she planned to make fun of us in front of her family. Perhaps she thought high school dropouts couldn't speak French properly. Despite her expectations, we reassured our son and, determined to stand up to Aubrey, I took the microphone. I'm Violet, turning 70 soon. Despite challenges growing up, we lead normal lives like any family. We've always protected our son from our struggles. Our sacrifices paid off when he married Aubrey, but the wedding brought new challenges. When we first met Aubrey, she seemed modest and gentle, making us happy about our son marrying such a wonderful person. But things changed when my husband talked about our son's past. He's always been smart, unlike us. He even went to state university. Aubrey interrupted. "Oh, so you two didn't go to a public university?" "No," I said, "we didn't finish high school due to family issues. We had to help with the family business instead of going to school." Despite some not-so-proud moments, we exchanged sad smiles at my eldest son's wife's reaction. It's not like we didn't want to go to school like everyone else, but we were proud of our home and didn't resent it. Well, hearing that someone only finished middle school is quite surprising, right? Absolutely. But I'm glad intelligence wasn't passed down to Tyler. What do you mean? Having in-laws who only finished middle school is like a black hen laying a white egg, my eldest son's wife said with a slight smile. The tension in the air skyrocketed instantly. While we couldn't say we were proud of it, my husband and I exchanged looks at her straightforward comments. Her words caught us off guard, but my eldest son's wife didn't seem bothered. Instead, she laughed, saying, "Oh, was that too hard for high school dropouts?" Her carefree smile left us speechless. Trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, we thought maybe she didn't mean any harm and held our tongues. However, her words and actions showed nothing but disdain, as if she was looking down on us. It seemed she viewed us as pitiable, uneducated in-laws just because of the term high school dropouts. From then on, her attitude worsened, and she made hurtful comments whenever she got the chance. "You two tied the knot pretty early, huh? Probably because you had nothing better to do." "That's not true. We got to know each other and then decided to marry. It was a time when you could choose who you loved. But marrying another high school dropout probably means you could only find someone at your level, right?" Aubrey said, her words filled with malice and a mocking smile. Despite our warnings about her behavior, she continued acting as if we were arrogant and didn't seem to listen. Around Tyler, our eldest son, she put on a decent act, But in his absence, she became bold, openly expressing her criticisms. Sure, my eldest son graduated from an Ivy League school, but her conduct showed that academic achievements don't necessarily reflect one's character. As the wedding preparations advanced, her attitude deteriorated. During dinners at our home, she made comments like, "Oh, even someone with just a middle school education can cook, huh?" Observing the meal I prepared, she once remarked, "Even with just a middle school education, you live in such a nice house. Maybe it's because your son is so accomplished." Her tone implied that we were somehow dependent on my eldest son. "Aubrey, please show some respect to my dad. This house was bought with his hard-earned money. Tyler is kind, and maybe he helped, but don't be disrespectful." Even when Tyler noticed and tried to intervene, Aubrey brushed it off, saying, "I didn't mean any harm," while smirking at us. When I looked into her condescending eyes, all I felt was malice. Even when my eldest son tried to correct her, she assumed I had tattled on her and seemed annoyed. He couldn't possibly earn enough to build a house just because he dropped out of high school. That's what my friends say too. To make things worse, my eldest son's wife spread unfounded rumors in town, suggesting that we were living off our son's earnings and enjoying a luxurious life at his expense. Her insensitivity had pushed us to our limits. "Don't expect me to take care of you just because I married your son, okay? I joined Tyler's family to avoid dealing with burdens like you. You're preaching to the choir. We wouldn't want someone who can say such harsh words to look after us anyway. You're in denial. By the way, I hope you've let go of the idea of depending on Tyler. Please stop being a bother." No matter how many times we explained, Aubrey remained convinced that we planned to keep relying on my eldest son, continually reminding us. Each time we met, even after clarifying our intentions, she wouldn't listen, leaving me with nothing but sighs. As the tension around the upcoming wedding grew, Aubrey approached us with a request. She wanted us to give a speech as part of the wedding entertainment. "Since we took some money from you both for the wedding, we'll let you attend. But in return, can you do me a favor?" And I want it to be a surprise for Tyler. It's a bit last minute to tell me this, you know. I forgot. I'm sorry, but it's already scheduled, so I can't change it. A speech, huh? Well, if that's all you want, I guess it's fine. Despite her sharp words, I accepted that arguing was pointless and reluctantly agreed. Despite the request for a 10-minute speech from the groom's parents, we were doubtful but went along with it. Surely she wouldn't try to cause trouble during the speech. Just as I had that thought, upon hearing my response, Aubrey narrowed her eyes and grinned mischievously, saying, "Great. So I'll need the speech in French tomorrow." "French? Why in the world?" I asked, taken aback, and she looked down at me with a smug expression. Seeing that expression, I once again realized her malicious feelings towards us, and it left me truly disappointed. Many of my friends, like me, are Ivy League graduates. I don't want to be judged because my in-laws dropped out of high school. But even if they can relate, there's no reason the speech has to be in French, right? Consider how the other guests would feel. Fine, I guess French might be too much for high school dropouts. It must be embarrassing to make excuses, huh? With her persistent sarcasm and forceful demeanor, she left us with a warning to keep our promise and walked away. I exchanged a troubled look with my husband, and he simply shook his head in silence. While we were contemplating our next move, a call came from Tyler. "Mom, are you okay? Is everything all right?" "Yes, everything's fine. What's up?" "I heard from Aubrey that you guys are going to help make the wedding special. I was worried she might have caused more trouble for you." He sounded apologetic as he said that, showing concern for Aubrey's excessive behavior. I wonder if choosing Aubrey as my life partner was a mistake. I never thought someone could change so much just because of their educational background. My eldest son expressed doubts, and it was painful for me to witness. Someone who never bragged about his education and grew up to be a kind-hearted person. Without further worry, my husband and I exchanged a knowing glance, nodding in agreement. "We're okay, honey. Don't stress. Just look forward to the wedding," we'd assured him. With that, we started preparing our speech, determined to show Aubrey our true selves. The next day, we headed to the wedding venue. On the wedding day, everything appeared to be going smoothly, except for the occasional glances and sneers from Aubrey's friends seated on her side. Even when we crossed paths in the corridor, they deliberately bumped into my shoulder without a simple greeting. Without an apology, they moved on with scornful smiles, leading me to believe they might have heard things about us from Aubrey. "Violet, are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." I could sense they had been briefed on something, but even then, their rudeness was quite evident. As first-time acquaintances, their character left much to be desired. If I was deemed the problem, they were certainly no better. I straightened my posture, sighed deeply, and waited for the right moment to respond. Now we have a surprise speech from the groom's parents. At the lively announcement, my husband and I looked up. My eldest son appeared shocked, and beside him, Aubrey sneered at us with a smirk that seemed entirely out of place for a bride. The French from the elderly high school dropouts is sure to be entertaining. My eldest son's wife whispered just loud enough for us to hear as we walked by. I had half a mind to slap that smug face, but I restrained myself and took hold of the microphone. After a brief moment to gather myself, I began my speech. First, let me share a little about us. As I started, I noticed from the corner of my eye that Aubrey's eyes widened in surprise. She likely expected a disappointing speech in broken French from the grandparents. While our fluency might not be native-like, it's safe to say we exceeded her expectations. My husband, seated beside me, went on to showcase proficiency in several other foreign languages, not just French. Witnessing Aubrey's wide-eyed and stunned expression, I couldn't help but smirk. How can you give such a speech? It's strange considering you didn't finish high school. Please don't judge a book by its cover, or in this case, by one's education. I replied softly and continued with my speech. I'd openly delivered it in French, addressing my eldest son's wife's disapproval of our educational background. I shared how she had unexpectedly requested the French speech the day before, emphasizing her demanding attitude as if this were the least we could do to attend the wedding. I even brought up her past insults towards us. I had much more to say, but my speech was cut short due to a flustered interruption from Aubrey. Nevertheless, the murmurs and whispers in the crowd, along with the shocked look on Aubrey's face, made me feel that revenge was achieved. Sorry for that little commotion. It was a surprise speech from the groom's parents. Thank you? No, thank you. And may I say, your pronunciation was impeccable. Did you study abroad? No, to our embarrassment, we dropped out of high school. While it's true that we didn't finish high school, my decision was driven by the need to support the family business. As for my husband, despite completing only middle school, he not only provided for his family, but also rose to become the CEO of a successful company. He climbed the ranks through relentless work, eventually establishing his own company and acquiring the necessary knowledge on his own. Skipping formal education was inconsequential for him. We crossed paths by chance through work, and understanding the similar challenges I faced, he stepped in to assist with my family's business. Thank you for helping our family. I can't express my gratitude enough. If you appreciate it, why not join us? Having someone who has faced similar challenges would be reassuring. That's how I joined my husband's company and continued working even after we got married until my retirement. Since the company had operations overseas, both my husband and I became fluent in French. I concluded with a smile to Aubrey. The bride requested us to deliver this speech in French at this beautiful venue. She arranged this opportunity so that my husband and I, who only completed middle school, wouldn't be looked down upon by her and her highly educated friends, some of whom graduated from prestigious universities like Harvard. Despite her request for a French speech, it seemed she couldn't fully comprehend it. Perhaps she struggled to understand our earlier speeches as well. Her earlier outbursts appeared to be fueled by her disdain for witnessing our fluent French. As I waved cheerfully, Aubrey responded timidly. Her usual sarcastic remarks vanished, and she remained silent, looking down for the rest of the event. Guests from my eldest son's wife's side seemed to grasp the speech better than she did. Their smiles from moments ago quickly faded. Aubrey's parents looked equally distressed, and the celebratory atmosphere swiftly shifted. After the ceremony, they hurried over to us, revealing their professional ties with my husband's company. As we were leaving the venue, they intercepted us, compelling my eldest son's wife, still in her elegant dress, to apologize. They too offered sincere apologies, and we tried our best to reassure them. Our daughter behaved terribly, and we are genuinely sorry. It's okay. In every family, people are different. I had no idea. It was unexpected. Well, maybe you never really paid attention to what I said. You were so proud, saying a black hen lays a white egg. When I disclosed the incident in front of her parents, both turned red and glared at their daughter. My eldest son's wife's complexion worsened even more. We'll make sure she reflects on her actions and discipline her appropriately to prevent a repeat. That's fine. She's now part of our son's family. She expressed a desire to distance herself from us. To make matters worse, tears welled up in my eldest son's wife's eyes. Her parents seemed formidable, but that was not our concern. Additionally, I heard of her friends had severed ties with her, believing baseless rumors, saying, "We thought you had terrible in-laws with just a middle school education. She must have felt embarrassed for getting entangled in all that. Why is this happening to me? If Tyler had told me, none of this would have happened." I did tell you. They had enough earnings to build a house and didn't need financial help. They even covered all of my college tuition. Yeah, you never really listened to me either. With those stern words, Tyler turned his back on her. Though typically mild-mannered, Tyler had reached his breaking point with the situation and was even contemplating divorce. Abandoned by relatives, friends, and even my eldest son, Aubrey found herself completely isolated. A few days after the ceremony, despite serious contemplation of divorce, it appeared they were still trying to work things out in their marriage. Despite being abandoned by my eldest son, Aubrey seemed to be working tirelessly, as if she had transformed into another person. "Violet, can we please put the past behind us and get along again? I don't recall us ever getting along in the first place." Although she seemed remorseful in front of Tyler, she often approached us, feigning apologies. Being one to hold grudges, I chose to ignore her attempts to mend ties with my eldest son and our family and kept my distance. Who was suggesting cutting ties, do you think? Oh, come on, stop pretending and lend me a hand, will you? Always nagging. You're the most spiteful person. Why, thank you. Trying to showcase an old couple's French skills was quite a move as well. Unhappy with my response, a frustrated Aubrey glared at me with her unapologetic attitude. It seemed our relationship might be irreparably damaged soon. Regardless of the difficult position it put her in, I wondered about the source of her high pride. She looked down on us and was unwilling to reflect on her actions. Recently, a relative who had recorded the wedding sent us the footage. When it reached my speech, we clearly saw the surprised expression on the bride's face and burst out laughing. School isn't the only place to learn. Maybe I should try picking up something new. Why not? Perhaps I'll join you. We decided to head to a bookstore together to search for study materials. That's why I asked you to pay back the money you owe. My husband suddenly left me with a big debt and vanished. I tried to reach him, but he didn't respond. What should I do now? I can't afford to pay off such a huge debt on my own. Thankfully, my daughter was there to support me when I felt lost. "Mom, don't worry," she said. "I'm Kate, 35 years old, working part-time and taking care of the house. My husband's name is Rogan, and we have a daughter. Rogan and I met at a social event where I was feeling nervous, but he approached me and made me feel comfortable. We hit it off and exchanged contact details. As we kept talking, I started feeling something special for Rogan. Soon enough, we began dating. Who would have guessed I'd end up dating someone I met at a mixer? After our first date, I told my older sister Talia about Rogan. She burst into laughter, saying, "Really? I never imagined you'd find a boyfriend at a mixer." I thought you'd date someone from work or something. I've always been shy and not great at socializing. Even as an adult, I rarely went to parties. It's quite a surprise, isn't it? You only went to help out, right? Exactly. When I showed Talia a photo from our date, she said, "He's surprisingly good-looking." After catching up, we said goodbye for the day. Talia is still single and seems content with it, not really interested in getting married or having a boyfriend. While I respect her choice, I'm excited about my future with Rogan. If things go well and we get married and have kids, that would be wonderful. On my way home, I couldn't help but smile. A few years later, Rogan and I got married. I remember his proposal so clearly. It was such an emotional moment. I couldn't stop crying tears of joy. Moving into our new apartment marked the beginning of our life together as a married couple. We used to live apart, so being with Rogan every day felt like a dream come true. Even though our work schedules were different, we made sure to have dinner together, sleep side by side, and cherish every moment. On our days off, we'd relax at home or go for drives, enjoying each other's company. The arrival of our daughter, Rhea, brought even more joy into our lives. She was so tiny and adorable. Her birth was an incredibly emotional experience that I'll never forget. Since Rita was born, I felt like I found true happiness. Our parents and relatives were thrilled too, sending us lots of gifts to celebrate. Just before Rhea was born, I quit my job to focus on taking care of my family. Rogan has always been supportive, helping with household chores and taking care of Rhea, even when he's tired. He'd often say, "I'll look after Rhea so you can rest." I'm grateful to have married such a wonderful person like him. Living with Rogan, who loves and cares for us so deeply, has been incredibly heartwarming. However, a few years down the line, I found myself regretting marrying Rogan deeply. Several years after Rhea was born, Rogan surprised me by resigning from his job. He explained that he had been struggling with a new boss, which had taken a toll on his mental health, leading him to quit. While I understood his reasons, I couldn't shake off the feeling of frustration. Why hadn't he discussed this with me beforehand? Our family relied on his income, so such a significant decision should have been made together. That was unexpected. "Have you thought about what's next?" I asked. "Don't worry, I'll figure it out," he replied vaguely. His response didn't ease my concerns, but I had no choice but to trust him. Luckily, Rogan found a new job relatively quickly. That's a relief. I thought about working too, but with Rhea still young, I want to be there for her, I explained. "Is everything going well at the new job?" I asked. "Yeah, it's fine," he replied curtly. I sensed something was off, but I didn't want to push him further. So I handed Rhea to him and went to take a bath. A few days later, Rogan returned home looking downcast. As I tried to inquire about what had happened, memories of his previous abrupt resignation flooded my mind. Could it be that he had quit again so soon? Sadly, my suspicions were confirmed. "I quit my job," he admitted. "Why?" I asked. "I just couldn't get along with my coworkers, especially being bossed around by someone much younger," he explained. "I understand, but we'll get through this. We'll find another job, and I'll support you however I can." I reassured him. Suddenly, Rogan's demeanor changed, and he lashed out at me. "Why do you look so displeased? You only eat because I work. You just stay at home and act all superior," he snapped, tossing his bag onto the table. Confused by his outburst, I asked, "What's wrong?" "Just shut up," he retorted angrily, grabbing a whiskey from the fridge and downing it in one go. I was taken aback by his behavior. I'd never seen him this upset before. I tried to calm him down, but he continued to vent his frustrations, eventually slumping onto the sofa in a sullen mood. I was shocked and hurt by his words, and our relationship suffered as a result. Since then, Rogan has been stuck in a cycle of finding and quitting jobs. We went through uncertain times and faced many anxious days. "Rogan, can't you take your job more seriously?" I tried to be understanding initially, but with everything going on, I couldn't stay silent any longer. "You're being unreasonable. If you're unhappy, then you should work and earn money. You rely on me too much. But what about Raya? What about her? Lately, Rogan seemed to be losing interest in Rhea and avoiding her. When Raya was born, he was so attentive and happy, but now he was like a different person. No matter how much I pleaded, he showed no interest in finding work. Eventually, I had to leave Rhea with Talia and start working myself. I'm sorry to burden you with this, I told Talia. It's okay. Rhea and I will be fine, she reassured me. Rhea had just started kindergarten, so leaving her with Talia wasn't too concerning. I trusted Talia to take care of her, and Rhea was surprisingly mature and calm for her age. She enjoyed reading newspapers and could write long sentences. Rhea was quiet and composed, and I worried if she would make friends at kindergarten. But she surprised me by making many friends and enjoying her time there. It was heartwarming to see as a parent. With Raya settled in kindergarten and Talia looking after her, I felt confident about working outside the home. When I started job hunting, I was surprised to land one quicker than expected. So I began working full-time, and the pay was better than I had hoped for. Even if Rogan didn't have a job, our finances would likely be stable. Luckily, the work environment was pleasant, and despite the busy days, I enjoyed it. After a few years, Rogan finally found a stable job too. It seemed like he had found a workplace that suited him. I felt a huge sense of relief knowing this. Over time, Rogan's mood improved, and he started to resemble the man I married. He became more considerate of my work-life balance, asking if I was tired or if work was tough. I was surprised by his change. Maybe having a stable job gave him peace of mind. Rhea was growing up well, and Rogan became a caring father to her again. Seeing them play together always made me happy, but the thought of quitting my job and returning to the old ways made me anxious. So I continued to rely on Talia for childcare. How's Rhea? Is she doing okay? Don't worry, she's happily playing, Talia reassured me. As long as Rhea was happy, I felt at ease. I still depended on Talia and have been thinking of treating her to something special to show my gratitude. Several years passed, and Rhea was now in the 3rd grade. She went to school every day with excitement. Our family remained close-knit and loving, just like before. I pondered over what had caused the previous strain between Rogan and me. Our home life now felt stable, as if past issues had been resolved. Then one day, Rogan suggested something unexpected. Have you thought about getting a new car? He asked. A new car? I replied, surprised. Yes, our current one is reliable, but it's getting old. If it's becoming too costly to maintain, I agreed, realizing our car had been with us for a long time and repair expenses were mounting. You might be right. Maybe it's time for a new one. I thought you'd agree. I've already gathered some catalogs, he said. I didn't expect him to be so enthusiastic about it, but we began looking through the catalogs together. Rhea, come here. Which car do you want to ride in? Let's choose together. Rogan called out to our daughter. The 3 of us enjoyed picking out a car together. Little did I know, this day would lead to unexpected events. A few months later, the new car arrived. It was a brand new model, costing over $155,000, and the loan was in my name. Normally, Rogan's name would be on such a loan, but given his job history, we feared rejection. I resolved to work even harder to pay off the loan, and I believed Rogan felt the same way. That's what I thought. But my hopes were crushed in an instant. Rogan stopped coming home, disappearing with the new car we had just bought. Did he get into some kind of trouble? What should I do? Just then, my phone rang. It was Rogan. Rogan, where are you? What's going on? I couldn't hide my concern. Relax, he said. You vanished out of nowhere, and the car is gone. Are you in trouble? I tried to explain how worried I had been, but Rogan laughed and dropped a bombshell. I found someone else. She's more important to me than you. What? What are you saying? I've fallen in love with someone else. I've already started the divorce process. Please don't interfere. Divorce? I can't believe this. I was stunned by the mention of divorce. But then I remembered a heated argument we had before. Filing for divorce meant we both agreed to end our marriage. I regretted letting my emotions get the best of me then. Oh, and I have a debt. You'll have to repay it, Rogan added casually. What? How much? Around $200,000. You'll handle the payments. With that, he hung up abruptly. I never imagined something like this could happen to me. Were all of his kind gestures just a facade? As these thoughts flooded my mind, I felt my strength drain away. Mom, what's wrong? Raya asked, rushing to my side with concern as I sank to the floor. It's okay, sweetheart. Thank you. I reassured her, trying to maintain a brave front even as anxiety gnawed at me. How would I manage with such a huge debt hanging over us? The thought of $200,000 weighed heavily on my mind. And then there was the car loan to worry about too. In a panic, I checked my bank balance, searching every nook and cranny for my ATM card, but it was nowhere to be found. Frantically, I checked my bank app on my phone and was horrified to see a significant decrease in my account balance, with no memory of making such withdrawals. Rogan was the only one who could have done this. I tried to reach him, but there was no response. It felt like my world was falling apart. With a blank mind, I resolved to focus on earning money. I decided to keep this burden a secret from Talia and Rhea to spare them unnecessary worry. Weeks later, I collapsed at work due to extreme stress and woke up in a hospital bed, bewildered. Where am I? I asked weakly. Talia entered the room with Raya, her expression full of concern. It turned out I needed to stay in the hospital for several days for further tests. What should I do? I fretted. Let's discuss Rogan once you're discharged, Talia suggested gently. Raya then confessed that she had overheard Rogan's phone call, surprising me with her knowledge of the situation. As I prepared to leave the hospital, I couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension, worried that Talia might reprimand me for letting Raya in on the truth. The next day, I underwent various tests, which revealed that my poor health was due to cancer. Thankfully, it was still in the early stages, and there was hope for recovery through surgery. Although the surgery was successful, returning to work immediately seemed out of the question. With no savings and medical bills mounting, I felt overwhelmed. During this difficult time, Talia and Rhea became my pillars of support. When Rhea explained the situation to Talia, she was even more outraged than I had expected. Talia tried to track down Rogan to make him repay the debt and cover the medical expenses, but his whereabouts remained unknown. What should we do if we can't find Rogan? I wondered aloud. Talia then suggested an idea. What about the car that's in your name? Rogan has it, right? Maybe we can try to get it back. Is that even possible? I asked, surprised. Talia explained further. I found out where Rogan is currently working. Surprisingly, he's at a different company inside the same building where I work. Although I usually work remotely, I've seen him there on occasion. With this information, we can make a plan. Then let's go to Rogan's workplace right away, I suggested, eager to confront him. But Talia advised against rushing into things. We need a solid plan, not just a spontaneous approach, she cautioned. Rhea and I have an idea, she continued. That's right, a plan? Raya confirmed, exchanging a smile with Talia. I couldn't quite grasp the significance of their demeanor. As I watched them silently, Rhea smiled reassuringly and said, Don't worry, everything's taken care of. What kind of plan have they concocted? They didn't provide details, but everything became clear a month later while I was at Talia's house. Suddenly, a call came in. Glancing at the caller ID, I saw it was from Rogan. Initially, I ignored it, but it kept ringing persistently. Something must have gone wrong. Summoning my courage, I answered, and Rogan's frantic voice pleaded, Please, help me. I'll explain later. Just come now. I'm in trouble, about to be arrested. He quickly shared his location and hung up. Talia and Rhea, who had overheard the conversation, finally unveiled their plan. We reported the car as stolen. And it was Raya's idea? Talia explained, beaming with pride. Rhea blushed and looked down, clearly grateful. I thanked them both profusely and rushed to where Rogan was waiting. The park he mentioned was surprisingly close to my home. Police officers were gathered around Rogan, questioning him. We hurried over to him. First, we explained the situation to the police officers and asked them to leave. Then, Rogan invited us into his car and began explaining what had happened. As I glanced inside the car, I noticed a confident-looking woman sitting boldly in the passenger seat, her legs crossed, staring at us with a cold gaze. "Thanks for coming, but why did the police show up?" Rogan asked, clearly perplexed. He had been surrounded and questioned by the police, yet he seemed unaware of their words. I was so shocked that I couldn't find the right words to respond. I reported the car as stolen, I finally said. "After all, the car belongs to me. We're divorced, so there's no reason for you to be using my car. Reporting it stolen was the logical thing to do. You probably didn't expect to be accused of car theft." Raya chimed in, addressing Rogan, who appeared shaken. "Dad, why did you leave us? Why won't you take responsibility for repaying the money? Explain yourself." Rogan sighed and looked at us with an exasperated expression, but he remained silent. "If you refuse to speak, I'll have to involve the police. Using my name without permission is a crime," I warned him sternly. At this, Rogan began to speak hesitantly, bit by bit. He opened up about his mistress, Lily, who had recently started working at the same company as Rogan. Their relationship began at a company welcome party and quickly turned romantic. Shockingly, Rogan discovered about 3 months ago that Lily was pregnant, evident from her growing stomach. "So you chose her over us and left?" I questioned, my tone sharp. Talia chimed in, interrupting Rogan's attempt to explain. She criticized his past actions, including his irresponsible behavior toward the family, frequent job changes, and quick temper. Rogan, seemingly lost in thought or simply ignoring Talia, remained silent, while Lily's irritation was evident. She pressed him about the $200,000 debt, but he stayed silent. Then Lily dropped a bombshell. He borrowed money in his wife's name to buy me luxury items. I was lucky. A $200,000 debt for gifts to Lily. What extravagances had he bought her? It was surprising how easily Lily revealed this information, considering it could incriminate them both if they were conspiring. As I pondered this, Raya asked Lily about her pregnancy. "When are you due?" Lily replied, "In about 3 months." But the timeline didn't add up. She claimed to have been pregnant for 3 months, yet she was due in the same amount of time. Something didn't quite make sense. Isn't the timing a bit off? Talia noticed the inconsistency and questioned Lily further. Is the baby really Rogan's? It seems strange for the due date to be in 3 months. Whose child is it? Talia's suspicions were clear. Though taken aback, Lily didn't seem inclined to hide anything. Actually, the child isn't Rogan's, she confessed. I thought about keeping it secret, but dealing with him further seemed like too much hassle, so I decided to come clean. Is that why you admitted to the debt as well? Talia pressed. Yeah, there's no point in sticking with Rogan anymore, Lily replied, her tone mocking. The atmosphere grew tense and uncomfortable. I wanted to leave immediately. Meanwhile, Rogan stared at Lily in disbelief. What are you saying? This has to be a joke, right? He exclaimed. Why would it be a joke? Lily retorted firmly. The tension escalated, making the air thick with unease. Talia took charge. Anyway, I'm calling the police, she declared. Rogan and Lily protested, but Talia reminded them that borrowing money in my name was a crime, as was using the car without permission, especially since Rogan and I were no longer together. She instructed me to make the call, and despite their pleas, I did. Soon, the sound of sirens filled the air. It was a relief to know that they would face the consequences of their actions. The issues regarding the debt and the car would finally be resolved. In the end, Rogan and Lily faced legal repercussions. While they avoided prison, they were held accountable for compensation, repaying the debt, and child support. Despite attempts to lessen their obligations through legal means, Raina's secret recording served as damning evidence, leading to their requests being denied. Rita decided to record the conversation after being inspired by a scene from a TV show she watched with Talia. While I admired her quick thinking, I couldn't help but wonder about the content of the shows Talia exposed her to. Now Ria and I reside with Talia without any commuting issues for Raya's school. As our previous residence was conveniently close, the car was returned safely, and it appears Rogan is somehow managing the debt. If Rogan hadn't made those regrettable decisions, he wouldn't be facing such hardships now. Throughout this ordeal, Talia and Ria have been instrumental, and thanks to them, the situation is gradually resolving. I am determined to work hard for a peaceful life